Hey, this video is going to be on our ACT Form A10, and it looks like this might have been given in December. Okay, so let's start with our first question. We have marbles, and we have the probability of selecting a red marble is 5 over 19. The probability of selecting a blue marble is 4 over 19. The probability of selecting a red or, so when we see the word or, we need to add, or blue, it's just going to be the sum of these. So 5 over 19 plus 4 over 19. And so that's going to give us 9 over 19. Okay, moving on to number 2. We have a graph, and it shows students who were present on Thursday from each of the 5 groups in Miss Megan's class. What is the probability that a student selected at random from the class on Thursday is in group 4? So let's see, the group that is on Thursday. So let's see, from Thursday. So here, let's see, we need a total amount of students. So our total amount of students looks like we're going to have 8 plus 12 plus 6 plus 2. So let's see, that's going to be 28 students. And then of those, how many were in group 4? So that's 2 of the 28. So that looks like that's 1 over 14. Okay, and number 3, we need to consider this equation. And then from that, for what value of j is the value of k equal to 40? So we're going to plug in 40 for k, and we're going to have 7/5 j plus 54. And we're going to subtract 54 over. And notice right here, 40 minus 54, that's going to be negative 14, isn't it? And so automatically, looking at my answer choices, I know that we're going to knock out all of those. And so here we need to divide both sides by 7/5, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And so here we get negative 10. All right, number 4, we need to sub in 8 for x. So now when we do the absolute value, you do the absolute value at the end of the process, not in the middle. So that's going to give me answer choice H. Okay, so for number 5, when Tyrese fell asleep, the temperature was 24 degrees, and when Tyrese woke up the next morning, the temperature was negative 16. So what was the change in the temperature from the time Tyrese fell asleep till he woke up? So he started at 24 degrees Fahrenheit, and so it had to drop 24 to get to 0, and then it dropped from that 0, it dropped another 16. So 24 plus 16 is going to give us 40. So it dropped 40 degrees while he was sleeping. All right, moving on to our next problem. Ming purchased a car that had a purchase price of $5,400, which included all other costs and tax. She paid $1,000 down, so she has this much left, right? And got a loan for the rest of the purchase price. Ming paid off the loan by making 28 payments of $200. So 28 payments of $200. So that's going to be $5,600. The total of her payments, including the down payment, was how much more than the actual car's purchase price? So notice here, if we subtract, and we're just going to subtract here the $4,400. So notice that she's paid $1,200 more for the vehicle. So that's answer choice G. Okay, moving on to number 7. The key to this problem in number 7 is the fact that it's a regular hexagon, which means all of these sides are going to be the same. And there's 6 sides, and if this side length is 4, then all of these over here are 4. That's what it means for it to be a regular hexagon. So 6 times 4 is going to give us 24. Okay, so here on number 8, we have a floor plan that's shaped like an L. And we want to know the area. What is the area in square feet? All right, so that looked like it got cut off a little bit, so I had to look back. A couple of ways we can do this. Well, if this whole side here is 40, and if I know this portion is 22, then I know this portion here is going to have to be 18. And we can find the area of both parts. So this area is going to be 22 times 50. And this area up here is going to be 22 times 18. And let's see what that's going to give us. So when we add this area and this area, it looks like we're going to get 1496. Okay, so let's see what we have for number 9. We do need to plot our points, so we have -2, 0. We have 0, 4. We have 5, 5. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have 8, 2. Well, there was 5, 6, 7, 8, up 2. All right, and so it looks as if we connect these, looks like we're going to have a trapezoid. So that's going to be answer choice C. Okay, so for number 10, I need to find the composite f of g of 4. So the first thing we need to do is find g of 4. And g of 4 is going to be 4 squared divided by 2. So 16 divided by 2, that's going to give us 8. And then I need to find f at 8. So that's going to be 3 times 8 plus 7. So that's going to be 24 plus 7. So that looks like we're going to get 31 for this one. And it looks like number 11 did not import in. So let's find, what does number 11... For number 11, you're selling hot dogs, and you sell the hot dogs for $2 each. And, okay, so you're looking for a model so that you will make a profit. So you're selling $2 per each hot dog minus your initial investment, which was $200. And all of that's got to be greater than 0 before you make a profit. So that's going to be answer choice E. All right, so number 13, we're finding a solution to our system of equations. And I would start out by, I would always try to solve this with elimination, if at all possible. So we have x plus 2y equals 2. And I'm going to combine with that negative 2x plus y equals 16. And if I add these together, nothing's going to cancel. So it looks like I might need to, let's say, multiply the top one by 2. And that should fix our x's. So that's going to change this one to be 2x plus 4y equals 4. And I'm going to bring over my negative 2x plus y equals 16. And when I solve this, notice those x's do go away. So I have 5y equals 20. So y is 4. So you're looking for the ordered pair that has a y coordinate of 4. And so that's going to be answer choice A. All right, so number 14, we have a map. And 1/4 of an inch is 16 miles. So two towns that are 2 3/4 inches apart. So how many miles are they really apart? So let's see, 2 3/4. Well, 2 3/4, and I need to divide that by 1/4 to see how many a quarter mile or quarter inches do we have. Well, that's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11 over 4 times, and then that's going to be 1 over, or 4 over 1. So it looks like we're going to have 11 miles, or 11 1/4. So here I'm going to take 11, and I need to multiply that by 16. So 16 times 11, that's going to give me, it looks like it's going to give me 176. So that's going to be answer choice K. All right, so for our next problem, this is matrix, not matrix multiplication, but scalar times a matrix. And you really just distribute that 4 to each part. So you would have -4 and 8, 0, and -16. So that's going to be answer choice E. Okay, number 16, you're looking at the value for tangent of angle A. So if we're looking at angle A, this side would be opposite. This side here is adjacent, and this is your hypotenuse. And a quick review of your trig functions. Sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So for tangent of angle A, opposite would be 15 and adjacent would be 8. So that means we have answer choice J. Okay, so looking at number 17, we have Tina that runs at a rate of 8 miles per hour. So 8 miles per hour. But I want to know at this rate, how many miles will she run in 12 minutes? So for 12 minutes, I need to convert that. 12 minutes, and I know there's 60 minutes in an hour. So we've got 1/5 of an hour here. So I have 8 miles per hour, and that's going to be times 1/5 of an hour. So that's going to give us 8 over 5, which is going to be 1 3/5. So that's answer choice D. And moving on to number 18, we need to evaluate our function at 3. So f at -3, that's going to be negative times -3 all squared. And so here I have -6 times +9, which is going to give me -54. Okay, moving on to our next problem, we have to find the measure of this angle up here. Now, given that we have a right angle, so we also are able to figure out that if whatever the measure of this angle is, that will also be the measure of that angle. So I know all the way around to 180 degrees, so I'm going to subtract 132 from that. And so that's going to give me 48 degrees. So I know this angle here is 48 degrees, and so I know this angle is 48 degrees. So to find that, I'm going to have 90 minus 48, and that's going to leave me with 42 degrees. So that's going to be answer choice B. Okay, number 20, Marcos programs his calculator to evaluate a linear function. But he doesn't say what the function is. When a 5 is entered, the calculator displays a 2. So I know this function at 5 is 2. When 15 is entered, the calculator says 6. Which of the following expressions explains what the calculator will display with any number n is entered? So it sounds like we need slope. So that means I need f at 15 minus f at 5 over 15 minus 5. And so that means I have 6 minus 2 over 10. And so that's going to give me 4 over 10, which is going to be 2/5. So 2/5 n is what I need here. So that's going to be answer choice F. Okay, moving on. Number 21. Okay, so here we have another temperature change, very similar to the previous problem. On Friday, the temperature at 8 a.m. was 49 degrees and rose at a constant rate of 1/2 until noon. So I have here at 8 a.m., let's see, we would have 49 degrees. And then it's going to rise 1/2 until we get to noon. So we're going to have, after 2 hours, it raises 1 degree. So at 10, then that means I'm going to have 50 degrees. And then at 12, I'm going to have 51 degrees. Now, after we hit noon, the temperature then fell at a constant rate of 1 degree and then continued the fell. Let's see, the temperature first fell below 49 degrees between. So then I know at 1 o'clock, the temp is back down to 50. And then at 2 o'clock, the temperature is down to 49. So somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock is whenever we're going to hit below 49 degrees. Okay, so here we have a grading scale. And let's see which, he has all of these grades. And we need to see how much that averages to be. So we have 82, 88, 91, and 83. And when we add all that up, it looks like we're going to have 344. Now, what we need to do is see that he had a B. So when I averaged all this together, in other words, when I took this 344, I added the final test grade, and I divided that by my total amount of points, which was 600, 400 for the individual and 200 for the final. He had a grade of 80. His grade was not higher than 89%, so that's 0.89. And so we need to multiply our 600 over, so we have 344 plus our missing test grade. And if we multiply that, it looks like we get 534. And subtracting over, so x would be, 190. That would be the highest he could make, and because that was 89%. So let's see, that means he could not have made 196. Okay, so for the next couple of questions, we have bowling to talk about, and we have what they're referring to as a pin deck. And then we're told that the diameter of each pin is 2.25, and when all the pins are set up, what is closest to the area in square inches that is covered by the base of the pins? So the area, the base of that pin would be a circle. So the area is pi r squared. We know the diameter is 2.25, so we need half of that. So the area of one pin, the base of that, is going to be pi times 2.25 divided by 2, all squared. And you can do all of that in your calculator. And then, how many pins do we have? It told us we had 10 pins, so we could go ahead and multiply that. And all of that in our calculators, it gave me 39.7608. And that looks like it's going to be answer choice A. Moving on to number 24, we need to look at the area ratio of the bowling lane to the pin deck. So let's look at the area of the deck is going to be 5 times 3.5. So 3.5, that's going to be 7 halves. And then the area of the bowling lane, that looks like that's going to be 65 times, and it still has the same width, 7 halves. So if we look at the ratio, the total area, so that's going to be 65 times 7 halves. Notice I'm not multiplying any of this out yet. And I'm comparing that to the area of the pin deck, which is going to be 5 times 7 halves. Well, then that's going to reduce real nicely to be 13 to 1. So that's going to be answer choice G. All right, so number 25, what score will Hallie need in her third game to average a score of 172 for her first 3 games? So her initial scores, it looks like if we go back to the problem, she had 148 plus 176, and we want to know what she's going to make on this other game. And I'm going to divide that by 3 because I'm doing the average to get 172. Now, of course, we do need to multiply that 3 over, and we can go ahead and add our 148 and 176, so that's going to give us 324 plus x equals 516. And so x, when we subtract that over, is going to give us 192. And so that's answer choice D. Okay, on number 26, the area of a rectangle. So area, rectangle, I know length times width is 300. And let's see, its length is 3 times its width. So its length is 3 times its width. So I know L equals 3W. And so I'm going to make that substitution over here. So I have 3W times that W equals 300. So we see W squared is 100. So W has to be 10. Okay. Looking at number 27, we have a parallelogram. And we're told from this parallelogram, my gracious, that the perimeter is 96 inches and one of the sides measures is 16. And so here we know that our sides, opposite sides here, are congruent. So if one side is 16, I know this other side is 16. So the remaining 2, we need to take 96 and subtract 32 from it. And so that's going to give me 64. And then for the other 2 sides, of course, we'll have to divide that by 2. That's going to give us 32. So our sides would be answer choice C. Okay, so here we have a street, and in each direction, so that's important, it has one 12-foot wide lane and a 6-foot and an 8-foot. So that's going to be 26, but it says in each direction, so I need to multiply that by 2, and so that's going to give me 52. Okay, so we have another trig problem, and we are told that our angle theta is between 90 and 180, so that's going to be over here in our second quadrant. Now, immediately we're asked for cosine of theta. I know all trig functions are positive here, sine here, tangent down here, and cosine down here. So if I'm looking for cosine in this quadrant, second quadrant, my answer has to be negative. Okay, and also cosine is going to be, if we look at this value here, now theta would always be in relation to the x-axis, and sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So my hypotenuse has to be 29. And so without even doing any square root business and Pythagorean theorem, I know the denominator is 29 and it's negative, so it's answer choice H. 31. This notation freaks kids out. It just means set your function equal to t, and then everywhere you see an x, change it to t. Okay, we're going to multiply that t plus 1 up and do our distributive property. So I have t squared plus t equals 2. We need to subtract our 2 over and do some factoring. So that's minus 2 equals 0. So that's going to be t plus 2 times t minus 1 equals 0. And when I set each part equal to 0 and solve, we have t equals negative 2 and t equals 1. And so that's going to be answer choice C. Okay, Okay, this problem would be a lot easier if we remember our Pythagorean triples. And do remember those ratios are 3, 4, 5. And then another would be 5, 12, and 13. So notice in this setup, this is really 5, this would be 3, and this would be 4. Now they've been multiplied a ratio of 3,000, but it's still going to be the same. And then over here by 1,000, you've got 12, 13. So this denominator right here has got to be 5,000. So automatically, which of the following values is closest to the distance in feet between the two radar stations? Well, it's going to be 9,000 plus 5,000. So 14,000. Okay, and so let's see, 33. Which of the following equations represents the line along which the plane is flying? And notice that the plane is flying horizontally, as most planes should. So that's going to be y equals, and how far up off the ground is the plane? It's up 12,000. So that's going to be answer choice. All right, number 34, which of the following values is closest to the number of seconds it will take for the airplane to fly from C to the point directly above the radar station at A? So the distance there is really from D to A, which is 900 feet. So we've got 9,000 feet, 9,000 feet, and we are traveling at a rate of 300 feet per second. And so notice that's going to give me 30 seconds is how long it's going to take. So answer choice G. Okay, and number 35, when considering the changing triangle formed by A and B and the moving plane C, which of the angles below increases in measure as the plane flies due west? Now keep in mind due west, that direction. So it looks like the only angle that's going to be changing there would be angle A. That angle is definitely getting larger. Okay, so for our next problem, Troy made a rectangular poster that is 4 feet long and 2 feet wide. The poster is too large to fit in the available space, so Troy is going to make a new poster that will have an area that is 50% of the original poster. So the area of the original is 8, so the area of the new is going to be 4. The length of the new poster will 3/4 of the length of the original. So let's see, for the original length, we had 4 feet, but now I need 3/4 of that. So 4 times 3 over 4 most days, that's going to give us 3. So how many feet wide will the new poster be? So I need to figure out how wide this is going to be. So I know that the area of the new is going to be the length times the width. And so let's see, that looks like we're going to have 4/3 is our width. And so that's going to be 1 1/3. So answer choice G. Our next problem is an equation, and so let's start trying to solve this. We have x plus 6 equals, and our distributive property on the other side. And notice what happens with this one. Whenever I combine my x's, I get x plus 6. Notice this is the same thing on both sides. So here, this is always going to be true. And if it's always true, then that means it's going to be all real numbers. So if you're solving some kind of equation and you get the same thing on both sides of that equation, it's always going to be all real numbers. All right, so for number 38, Steve plans to use 28 feet of fencing to enclose a region for his pet. And what is the area in square feet of the largest rectangular region Steve can enclose? Well, that means I know, well, goodness, I don't know what that A is. Maybe is equal to length times width, and I know that area is 28, and it's going to be a rectangle. So let's see, we have a perimeter that would be 2 length plus 2 width. So if we reduce all that down by 2, I know 14 is length plus width. And so we need to find the largest area we can enclose. So what I would do is set up a length, a width, an area, and let's just see. Because I need to take two numbers, they're going to add to be 14. Well, if I go through my list, let's start with 1. Then this width would be 13, and so my total area is 13. 2 and 12 is going to give me 24. So notice that in 3 we can say 11. Notice that I could generate more area the closer these numbers are together. And let's do one more just to make sure. 4 and 10, that's going to give me 40. So what if I skip all the way down to 7 and 7? That's going to give me 49, isn't it? And then it would change and come back up. The length and width would be reversed. So it looks like the largest amount is going to be 49. Okay, number 39. You have 5 people in a bookstore. And y'all, whenever this problem, notice how huge of a problem, I would read down through here. If it can be determined which of the following is changed the least. So we're talking about a range, mean, median. So now I'm going to glance through, and we have 5 people, annual income 30 to 35. And then we have a professional athlete that comes in and earns 1 million. So notice it's talking about the mean, median, range, standard deviation of the annual people. So what changed the least? So what would have changed the least here when all of that? So I would imagine the median would have been the one to have changed the least, the stuff in the middle. All right, let's keep it going. Another problem. So we have a landscaping. And so let's see. Anne had 2/5 of the job completed. And then another third of the job was completed. And so that's going to give me 6 plus 5 over 15. So I know 11 of the 15 of the job was completed. So this other guy, Ruben, came in and he completed the job in 2 hours. So he did the rest of the job, which would have been 4. He did that in 2 hours. So notice, let's see, in 2 hours he did 4 of the 15. And so which of the following values is closest to the number of hours it would have taken one of them to have done the entire job? So if we look at this, 4/15, he works that rate in 2 hours. And so if we keep going, let's say he worked more, well then that's going to be, he works 8/15 in, let's see, completing one job. I'm trying to build this up. So 4/15 is going to be 2 hours. Well, if he worked 2 more hours, that's going to be a total of 4 hours. He's got 8/15. He needs to work another, and I just chose one of them because it said would have taken one of them. I'd rather go up units of 2 as opposed to 2/5. And then another 2 hours, so that's going to be 12 over 15. So that's going to give me 2 for 6 hours. And we're still not quite there, so that's going to drop off all of those. So it's going to be answer choice K. All right, so let's look at number 41. And 41 is going to be dealing with our exponent rules. So here we've got A and B, and it's just a matter of simplifying. We do need to remember here, we can take this exponent into each part. So I probably don't need those parentheses anymore. So I'm going to have 2 to the 4th a to the negative fourth. Now that's really square root of b. We need to think of that as b to the 1/2 power. So 4 times 1/2 is 2 over ab to the negative 3. And so right off, now 2 to the 4th, look at these wrong answers that they have. 2 to the 4th is not 8, so those are all crackheads. So let's toss those out. So I have a 16, so I can't eliminate any answers there. Here, let's talk about our exponents. It's going to be top exponent minus the bottom exponent, so a to the negative 5, which means 1 over a to the positive 5th. So that gets rid of that answer choice. And so notice we've got 2 and 3, so we got to come up with 5 for B, so that's going to be answer choice C. All right, so to become a contestant on a quiz show, a person must correctly order 4 rock stars from youngest to oldest. And the contestant knows the oldest. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 things we're going to order, and we already know the oldest. Okay, so what's the probability that the contestant will get all 4 in order? Well, at least 1 over, because there's only one way to get it in correct order. Well, how many choices are left? You had 4 rock stars. We take out 1 for here, so that means we have 3 choices, and then 2, and then 1. And so that looks like we're going to have 1 over 6. Okay, for number 43, we are adding these. So, going through, let's see. Let me get this to pull up. Here we go. All right, so we're going to have to do some adding of fractions. Remember, in the numerator, the least common denominator would be 6. And so when I put these together, let's see, 3, what did I multiply to 3 to get this 6 is a 2, so it's going to be 2 times x on top, plus, and what did I multiply this 2 to get 6, which is going to be 3, and 3 times 1 is 3. And then all of that's over, and we're going to repeat that process. We have 12 for our denominator, and so we're going to have 8 minus 3. And so on top, I have 2x plus 3 over 6. This division is going to change to multiplication, and my denominator needs to flip. So I'm going to have 12 over 5. And so let's see, our 6 will cancel into 12, leaving 2. And when I multiply this, I get 4x plus 6. And over in the denominator, I'm going to get 5. So that looks like we're going to have answer choice D. All right, for our next problem, we have a license plate. And let's see, 6 characters. And the first 3 will be digits 0 through 9. So I'm going to go ahead and list out 3, 4, 5, 6. And notice that the digits can repeat. So we have 10 choices for the numbers. And then 26 for the letters, and when we multiply all that mess together, you're going to get K. Okay, for our next problem, this problem is going to deal with our function transformation. If we have a 3 out here, that means that my function is going to go up 3. So 3 units up, we're looking for that. And wow, notice that's going to eliminate every single answer choice but A. Well, that's nice. So do keep in mind this on the outside is going to tell you up or down depending on the sign. This inside is going to be the opposite of what you think. So x minus 1 actually is moving to the right 1. And that's always true if you're inside the function. All right, number 46 is a logarithm property. And the way we solve these logarithms, when they're set up like this, you're going to say 5 raised to the negative 2. So again, 5 with the negative 2 exponent is equal to what x value. Now look at this wrong answer sitting here. It's tricky. Remember 1 over, and right here's another wrong answer, but those sure are tricky. This means 1 over 5 squared. So that's going to be 1 over 25. And look, they've even got another wrong answer there. But the right answer is going to be K. All right, 47. Which of the following lists those integer values of d which lie between, for the fraction 2 over d, that are between these two? Well, 1/5 and 1/3, and I want 2 to be over some number so that I end up being between 1/5 and 1/3. Well, 1/5, I would look at this as a decimal because 1/5 is 0.2. 1/3 is 0.3 repeating. And now let's just plug in our values and see. So for A, that would be 2 over 4, which is 0.5. So that's too big. And so right here's 4 again, so that's too big. Now let's try 8 only. That is always so suspicious. So let's see, 2 over 8, that's going to be 1/4, which is 0.25. So that one would be right, but I don't know if it's the only one. And that also gets rid of this. So we need to try one more just to make sure. So let's try 2 over 7. Well, 2 over 7, if we look at that in our decimal form, 2 goes into, and I don't have a calculator in front of me. So 2 divided by 7, we're going to add our decimals, and that's going to have to be a 2, so it's 0.2 something. So, yep, answer choice D. Okay, number 48 is reasoning. So here A is less than B, or I'm sorry, A is greater than B. Be helpful to know that. And C is negative. So which of the following is true? So if A is greater than B and C is negative, so when I come through and I divide by that C, I'm going to have to flip my inequality sign. So it looks like, well, the very first one's going to be right. So if I do that, this has to flip because I'm dividing by a negative. All right, continuing on. Number 49 is going to be the law of cosines, and they've given you the formula here. And the big thing to remember with this is that side is across from that angle. So whenever we're solving for, let's see, the largest angle, that's across from the longest side. So 39 squared is going to go out there. So we have 39 squared equals a squared. Well, 38 and 37, it really does not matter. And let's see, minus 2 times that product, minus 2 times 38 times 37, cosine C. Okay, so this is a matter of rearranging. So we're going to have 39 squared minus 38 squared minus 37 squared. So let's check out our answer choices from that. Okay, so it looks like this isn't going to work. That's not the right order because we're subtracting, so the order matters. And let's see, so that's going to get rid of those. And notice all of this is times cosine, so that needs to be divided. And so that leaves us answer choice B. All right, so looking at number 50. Number 50, Pete wants to average or score X points on his 4 equally weighted. So that means that he's taken these 4 tests. If I can get my pen to work. So I have test 1 plus test 2, test 3, and test 4. He's taken all 4 tests, and he got an average of X. So all of that, and we're going to divide that by 4, and he got X. So he wants to make on the 5th where he has X plus 2 higher. So I'm going to add another test to this. So test 1 plus test 2 all the way out to test plus test 5. and that's divided by 5, and I want that to be 2 points higher. So what is he going to have to score, or on this next test, what is it, how much higher, how many points higher? Well, let's take this 5 and multiply it across, and it's going to tell us. So look at 5 times x plus 2. So when we distribute, notice we have 5 times the original amount plus, because I have 5x plus 10. So here's that extra amount. So that's going to be answer choice K. Okay, for our next problem, we have the intersections of L and M form 2 angles. So I'm just going to intersect some lines here. And the measure of angle B is 3.5 times the measure of angle A. So which of the following would be closest? So if we've got angle A here, well, over here can be angle B. And so notice that angle B is 3.5 times the measure of angle A. So A plus B, but B is 3.5 times A. And that measure from here to here is going to be 180 degrees. So that's going to give me 4.5A equals 180. And so that's going to be 8 9/2. A is 180. And so when I multiply that over, A is going to be 180 times 2 over 9. And so that's going to give me 40. So that's answer choice D. Okay, so for the next problem, this is a sequence, and it's recursive, and it looks intimidating by all the subscripts. They just look horrible, but keep in mind, you know S at 1. You're trying to get to S at 4. So let's see what S at 2 is going to look like. And I'm going to plug in right here these little subscripts. That N in this case is going to be 2. So I'm going to have 2 times S at 1 plus 2 plus 1. So that's going to give me, and I know S at 1 is 3, so that's going to be 2 times 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so let's go to the next one, S at 3. So that's going to be 2 times S at 2 plus 3 plus 1. So that's 2 times 9, which is 18. 18 and 4 is going to be 22. And then finally S at 4, that's going to be 2 times S at 3 plus 4 plus 1. And that's going to give me 2 times 22, so 44, and 5 is 49. So that one's not too bad. We just have to know what all those little subscripts mean for sure. Okay, and so let's look at our next set of problems, number 53. And for 53, we have to order these from least to greatest. And so here, from the least amount to the biggest, and notice that A is an integer less than -1, so I'm going to say A is negative. A is negative. So absolute value of A is going to be positive. And let's see, negative A squared, that's still going to be negative. And then negative 1 over A is going to be positive but small. So the ordering of these from least to greatest, we need negative A squared first. And then we will need 1 over A. So that's going to give me answer choice E. All right, so let's continue on. And here on 54, we're talking about expected value. Now, expected value is kind of interesting. We look at the probability and we multiply it by how many times it can happen. So we've got an index card, and each card has a single number written on it. One card has a 1, 2 cards have a 2, and so forth. So when we talk about that, we have 1/10, because there's a total of 10 cards. So 1 of the 10 has a 1 written on it. Times, how many ways can that happen? Well, there's only one way that can happen. And then plus, because we end up adding all this up, we have 2/10, and there's 2 ways that can happen. 3/10 times 3 ways that could happen. And let's see, finally we have 4/10, and there's 4 ways that could happen. And so if we add up all of that, it looks like we're going to get answer choice J. Okay, for number 55, we have 3 consecutive odd integers. Whenever you're looking at those odd integers, and this will even work for even integers, you're really going out by a value of 2. To illustrate this, we can say, let's start with 3, and then the next odd integer would be 5, and then the next one 7, and so forth. So if I let my first odd integer be x, then the next one would have to be x plus 2. And then again, keep in mind, going from 3 to 7, the next one would be x plus 4. Now, which of the following is equivalent to the sum of any 3 consecutive odd integers? So if we talk about the sum of any, notice we're going to add up each one of these. So I'm going to add x and x plus 2 and x plus 4. When I collect my x values, I have 3x. And then when I collect my numbers, I have plus 6. And we're wondering, well, what does that really look like in terms of my x, x plus 2, x plus 4? Well, we have a GCF of 3. And when I factor that out, notice I get 3 times x plus 2. Well, x plus 2 was really that middle number. Or here, notice how they've listed this as x and then y and z. So really, if we look at this analogy, that y is taking the place of x plus 2. So 3y would be the correct statement there. Okay, for 56, we have the mean of a set. And notice that the mean, that is talking about your average. And then we're told that the mean of this set is 24. So that means when I add up each one of these and divide by 5, I'm going to get 24. So I'm going to go ahead and add these up. And so when I add those, I'm going to get 83 plus x, and that would be divided by 5 equals 24. But I'm going to go ahead and multiply that 5 over. Now let's look at the next part. Let's look at the median. And with the median, we know the median is 38, but we really don't know here with our numbers. This is going to be a little bit tougher to judge because the median being 38, look at all the different arrangements that we need to address with this. Simply because the median being the number in the middle, I know 8 and 29 and 53, but I don't know what the value of y is. So one arrangement could be y, then it can be 8, then 29, then 53. Or we can have 8, y, 29, and 53. Then we could have 8, 29, y, and 53. Or our last possibility, 8, 29, 53, and then y. Okay, so I know the median, so I would have to average these two and come up with an average of 38. Well, those two, that's definitely not going to average to be 28. Well, this is a possibility. So y plus 29 divided by 2 is 38. Well, this is going to generate the same thing. And then the last thing I need to check would be 29 and 53. But the average of 29 and 53, let's see, that's going to add to be 82. And if I divide that by 2, I'm going to have 41, which is not 38. So it cannot be this. So there's going to be my 2 possibilities. And so now I just have an equation to solve. If I multiply over by that 2, we're going to have 38 times 2, so we're going to have 72. And then here, if we subtract, we're going to have y is 47. Now keep in mind, we were trying to find x and y here. So we have y is 47. So let's go back up and finish finding x. We have 83 plus x equals 120. And so x is going to be equal to, if we subtract that over, we're going to end up with 37. And so the difference in those two, x and y, is going to be negative 10. Okay, with 57, we need to consider all rectangles such that the rectangle's length is greater than the width, and the length and width are whole numbers of inches. Which of the following perimeters in inches is not possible for a rectangle with an area of 144? So we need to keep in mind that area is length times width. And so really I'm just looking at the factors of 144. So I need to break down 144 and then look at which one could be a possible perimeter. Well, 144, the first thing I think of would be 12 times 12. But now we know that the length and the width, the length is greater than the width. So 12 and 12 is not going to work. But we can use that and break this down to be 6 times 2 and 6 times 2. And so from that, we would see that we would have a perimeter here of 12, and or is 36 and 4. So 36 plus 4, that's going to give me 40. But now that was just 2 of the sides, so I would need to multiply that by 2. And so that's going to give me a perimeter of 80, which is one of the answer choices. Now keep in mind we wanted what's not possible, so we get to cross out 80. And let's see, we could also say 6 times 6 times 2, which is going to be 72 plus 2. And then that's going to give me 74, and then multiply that by 2. That's going to give me 148, so it can't be that one. We could even break this down even further. We could do 4. We've already done 4 and 36. What about 4 times 6? So that's going to be 24. 24 plus 6, that's going to give me 30, and then times 2, that's going to give me 60. So we're knocking out these answer choices pretty quickly. Let's see. We could break 6 down even more. We can make that 3 times 2. And so we could do 2 times 2 times 2. That's 8. 8 times 6 is 48. And then, of course, 48 times 3. So 48 plus 3. That's going to give me 51, and 51 times 2 is 102. So we've eliminated everything but A, so A's got to be it. Okay, number 58, we have the equation of a circle, and automatically we know what the center of that circle is because we pick out our 7 and 8. You do need to flip your sign there. And let's see, we are in a standard XY coordinate plane. And let's go ahead and plot this. We're going to go over 7, up 8. So we have the point here, 7, 8. And one endpoint of the diameter of the circle has a y-coordinate of 11. So we're going to have to move up, and the other end of that diameter is 11. Now, so we know this is going to be 7, 11, because our x value stayed the same. So, and our y value changed to 11, and it wants to know what's the y-coordinate of the other endpoint. Well, if we moved up, it looks like from 8 to 11 we moved up 3, so that means we're going to have to move down 3. And so the y-coordinate of the other would be 8 minus 3, which is 5. So we're going to have answer choice J. Okay, number 59, the plans for a diving pool call for a rectangular prism. And so I'm going to give my best shot at a rectangular prism. So if we have this rectangular prism, and notice that from that we're going to talk about volume. And let's see, has a length of 30 meters. So we have a length of 30 meters, a width of 25 meters, and we have a depth of 5 meters. If the plans are changed to increase both the length and the width of the pool by 10%, what will be the increase to the nearest 1% of the volume? So we really need to look at a ratio here. Let's go ahead and find the volume of the original. So I'm going to call that V sub O. And remember, volume, you're going to say the depth times the length times the width. So that's going to be times 30. And so that volume looks like it's going to be 3,750. Now I'm going to go through and I need to increase the length and width by 10%. So we need to find 10% of each one of those sides and then add it back. So a super quick way of doing that, to save yourself some time, the volume of the new, now the height or the depth stayed the same, but I'm going to change that 25, and if I want to increase it by 10%, let's multiply it by 1.1 times, and then I'm going to increase the other part by 1.1. So again, that's increasing at 10% if you multiply by that 1.1. Now let's go through and find that volume. That new volume here, volume of the new, is going to give you 4,537.5. Now we need to know what is the volume increase. So what I need to do is take the new volume and I need to divide it by the old volume. That's going to give us a good ratio of that. And when I divide those, I get 1.21. And notice right here, we have the whole amount plus 0.21. So we have done a 21% increase. So that's going to be answer choice D. Okay, and finally our last problem, and this is more of a pre-cal problem. It's going to deal with synthetic division. And notice you're given one of these zeros or a solution to the equation, and you have to figure out what's going on with the other ones. So let's go ahead and set this up, and this is called synthetic division. We have 4, -2. I'm pulling these coefficients. 4, -2, 1, and 7. And I'm told that -1 is a root. So we're going to bring down our 4. And so we're going to get -4, which is going to give us -6 here. Multiply again, I get +6. Add through here, that's going to give us 7, and then -7, and we have a 0, which we knew that would happen. So the resulting amount is going to be 4x squared minus 6x plus 7. Now it wants us to describe the rest of the roots here. This is where we're going to come back to the discriminant and look at b squared minus 4ac. And this is all we need to look at in order to finish answering the question. So b squared, that's going to be 36 minus 4 times the product of a and c, which is going to be 28. This automatically we can reason that is going to be less than 0. If that's less than 0, then we're going to have our complex roots, because that's going to be what's under the square root for the quadratic formula. So it looks like both are complex numbers that are not real. That should be our answer choice.